Okay, so let's get back home and see how this impact on us. Let's domesticate some of these issues. Weaker dollar on one hand should help our own local currency, but however, there are reports this morning that the size of the subsidy has gone up again, perhaps albeit slightly, perhaps about 40 billion, and we're now heading towards the 300 billion naira bracket. That is scary. Does it scare you?
Yes, I'm not sure I heard you quite clearly, but I feel you're talking about the subsidy. And if you look at some of the data that's coming out of the PT3, we can see that the subsidy per liter on products has actually maintained a steady rise since last week, when they were still around $40, 40 naira per liter. And as we speak today, the subsidy on petrol or gasoline is 48 naira 15 kobo. And that has been driven largely by the fact that even though oil prices have sort of maintained a downward trend also within that period, freight costs have actually also gone up. That has ensured that landing costs of petroleum products or petrol gasoline generally has maintained that steady rise. And also you also want to price in, and that's quite significant because again it affects the government subsidy bill and also strengthens the call that I mean it's already very dominant now that subsidy needs to be cut.
So either ways, what are we gaining?
From the lower oil prices?
Yes,
technically
oil price is lower, dollar is lower, however, the cost of freights and what have you, well, to call the CIF, cost insurance freighting is still high, we're paying dollars. So what exactly do we gain from these margin? If you look at 53 dollars per barrel, is that our benchmark, and we're around 63, so the headroom is just around $10 per barrel.
Exactly. I think it boils down to what Elbadi said, that the structure just generally isn't right, and it ensures that we are not able to translate these gains to Nigeria, or these gains are not able to be translated to us Nigerians, you know, because of the way things are structured currently. You recognize something, with this is research we've done. Nigeria currently pays perhaps the lowest amount for gasoline among all sub-Saharan African countries. That's actually because a lot of our crude oil gasoline has been subsidized. So this is something that has also limited to some extent the amount of gains that can be transmitted. And we even took a decision early in the year also to cut the price of gasoline further to 87 naira per liter from 96, which was already the lowest in sub-Saharan Africa. So it took us further away from being able to translate a real gain from the lower crude oil prices. Going by something like the finance minister herself said also a while back, it might take, we might need to see $60 or $59 barrel before we actually have no subsidy on crude oil at current prices.
Okay, we thank you very much. If there's anything you heard on the markets as far as oil is concerned, let us know.
Okay.
Dolapo Oni, Head of Energy Research at EcoBank Development Corporation, simply known as EDC. Okay, those are some of the stories about the state of the economy and the markets. South Africa is still in the news as the host of the 2015 World Economic Forum. And of course, today is the second day of the meeting and the day where most of the meetings will be taking place in the open. The media were in. One of the key discussions focusing early today, on the markets in Africa. Let's talk to Channel's Business News anchor Harriet Agbeyi, who I'm sitting in for here while she's sitting there in South Africa, at least for the next couple of days. Harriet, good morning to you and welcome to the program.
Well, good morning, Bosun. Thank you so much. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to see you on the other side.
On the show this morning.
Yeah, but please go ahead. It looks like there's a different weather down there. You got a muffled up there. A little bit cold? Please go ahead, Harriet.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Yeah, please go ahead, Harriet. It's the second day of the conference. So talk to us what was discussed yesterday, and I'm sure this morning you've attended one of the sessions or some of the sessions. Talk to us specifically on the markets. Of course, that session, I think we lost that signal there. Where does the Africa's markets go from here? It's been a discussion at different fora. The just concluded annual meetings of the African Development Bank spoke on cross-border and how border listings among African markets, a very interesting session. And at the World Economic Forum is also part of the discussions regarding how African markets will become more deeply integrated. Number of African markets are small and fragmented. You have about 25 stock exchanges in Africa. South Africa is still the doyen of the continent with about $800 billion in total market capitalization. Nigeria comes a distant second with about 60 or about $80 billion. Egypt's placed in third, but the rest are significantly smaller, including those of Kenya and the BRVM in Cote d'Ivoire. That's about the sixth position. If you take out those major six exchanges between the north, south, east, and west, the rest of the markets is small. So there are concerns about whether these small exchanges in Africa could provide the much needed domestic capital to help build infrastructure on the continent and also help some of the companies raise bigger ticket transactions from overseas, such as listing on the London Stock Exchange, which has been a new trend among a number of companies on the African continent, with the London Stock Exchange reaching out to markets such as Nigeria and Kenya. However, South Africa has been at the forefront of trying to get African markets to integrate and form a single market, but that is yet to take real hold on the continent. That's part of the discussions at the World Economic Forum for Africa for 2015. It's been an interesting one. We will try and get Harriet back to tell us not just about the weather, but about the markets. Very interesting time and discussions there at this year's annual event. Okay, I guess we'll wrap it up today. We'll try to get Harriet back in the afternoon when we come back to you. Lunchtime, 1:30 Nigerian time on Business Incorporated. We'll go back live to South Africa to fix that up and get you the updates from that important meeting. I am Boostin Amofai. I'll be out of here for a couple of hours. I'll see you back at lunchtime. Do have a great day.